Picture this, a curve in the road, a change in plans. Well, what do you say? With the all-new Audi Q3, the answer's always yes. Yes to adventure. Yes to escape. Yes to performance. Yes to comfort. Yes to right now. Because saying yes without hesitation, that's real luxury. The all-new Audi Q3, made for the yes life.
You're listening to In Good Health, the trusted news source for medicine, science, and technology. I'm Elizabeth Westfield.
I'm Mayan Vasta Betancourt.
And I'm Greg Johnson. This week, will lax EPA regulations affect national lead exposure?
There is a real value on human life that needs to be considered when you're deciding how much it costs for environmental regulations.
But first, the long-term impacts of childhood sexual abuse.
Abused victims, particularly girls, let things go much farther before they're willing to say this is dangerous.
All that and more this week on In Good Health.
With the all-new Audi Q3, the answer's always yes. Yes to adventure. Yes to escape. Yes to right now. The all-new Audi Q3, made for the yes life.
One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. What a deal.
Your new morning groove. Iced coffee from McDonald's, any size for just 99 cents till 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This segment discusses the sexual abuse of young girls and the lasting effects of that trauma. While we believe this is an important topic, it may not be suitable for some audiences. Last week, Dr. Frank Putnam explained the biological toll of childhood sexual abuse. And though his female growth and development study has proven these damaging effects, too many cases of abuse are still being dismissed in both the public and the courts. For years, Putnam has watched lawyers claim that a parent could never harm their child in this way. Another popular argument is that the victim is too young to be trusted to tell the truth. However, that's not what research shows to be true.
I think the statistics on that are, 0.5%, maybe as high as 2% of cases might have a fraudulent area, but 98 plus are legitimate cases, and it's probably even higher than that. Generally, where I've been involved and seen a fraudulent case, there have been other motives that have been going on where typically teenagers are incentivized to lie about this to get somebody into trouble or to prevent something from happening. So they sort of haul it out, and generally you can figure that out pretty quickly. So I don't really worry. I mean, we've evaluated literally thousands and thousands and thousands of children. And really, it's a handful of cases where I could be sure that there was any kind of fraud.
It's this naive argument that allows many predators to get off with light charges or completely dodge accountability altogether. Putnam experienced this firsthand during his time working at the National Institutes of Health. He was tipped off that a Nobel Prize-winning coworker was trafficking young boys into America under the guise of adoption. Putnam first contacted the FBI, then tried to alert the NIH.
I went to my institution and basically said, we've got a child sex trafficking ring going on here. And they said, mind your own business. And now, ultimately, that person his name was Daniel Carlton Gajdusek, and he was a Nobel Prize winner, not in my institute, but in the Neurology Institute at the NIH. And he ultimately was convicted of one count, even though we know that there were probably 50 or 60 children involved, at least in the ring. He served a year in prison, in a very, very cushy prison, and then went to Europe, where he continued to be a scientist.
After dying in 2008, his biographer said Gajdusek never expressed remorse for abusing kids. Instead, He believed America's age of consent laws were prudish and that sex with minors was normal in the cultures he studied. The day before pleading guilty, the NIH let Gajdusek resign, allowing him to be eligible for his federal pension. During the investigation, a state's attorney reported that associates of Gajdusek tried to remove at least one accuser from the country before they could testify. Given that this is how victims have been treated when they come forward, Putnam says it's important to believe the ones who do. While every case needs to be investigated, the standard should be to assume that kids are telling the truth, especially given that it can be an incredibly hard decision for anyone experiencing abuse to speak up.
Our society has made it very painful to come forward. We see that over and over and over again, and anybody who's thinking about doing that, I think, pretty much weighs that when they see what's happened to other people and what they've been threatened with. Often they've been threatened all their life. If you tell anybody, all these terrible things are going to happen to you. So they don't come forward lightly. And I think the vast, vast majority are telling the truth. Now, with little children, sometimes they don't know what exactly was done to them. I mean, they don't understand the anatomy. They don't understand all those sorts of things. They just understand that this is not right in some way, or this is uncomfortable.
But even for kids who may not fully understand the terrible acts that have happened to them, those experiences leave deep wounds. One surprising outcome, Putnam notes, is that many of these girls don't notice the signs of dangerous situations.
What we've seen is they're not as vigilant, and they tend to let things proceed farther than they really intend to, whereas the comparison girls and other things that we've done were much quicker to say, this is not going well, and to recognize when that things were not risky.
Putnam thinks it could be coming from a place of people-pleasing, but also recognizes that much of this reaction could be a product of dissociation.
They simply don't see the warning signs in the same way that the comparison girls did. And there are other studies where people read paragraphs and they say they're supposed to call it a halt if they see something in the sort of scheme of the paragraph that says this is not going the way you want it to go. And again, those studies again show that abused victims, particularly girls, let things go much farther before they're willing to say this is dangerous.
Along with being worse at recognizing signs of danger, the abused girls that Putnam has studied unknowingly put themselves in risky situations simply because of how they learned to behave around men. For some, being sexually aggressive is seen as a social icebreaker, which Putnam was able to observe in his research.
We had a scripted thing. The psychologist who was going to test him for a lot of other things didn't know whether this was a maltreated or a comparison girl. And we had a script where it was all videotaped and then basically scored by other people who were blind to whether this was an abuse or not. But what we saw was this much more aggressive move on the part of the maltreated girls to engage with this man.
Each girl was put in a corner of the room with the freedom to choose any activity they wanted while they waited for the male psychologist to finish up some work at his desk.
They could sit there and read, they could draw, but a lot of them were attracted to the male psychologist who was busy with a task, a standardized task. And what we saw was they would, sit on the table or want to sit on his lap or offer to give him a massage or things like that. And I mean, it was really quite shocking how forward they were in terms of their behaviors. And what we were able to code these behaviors in the various categories and what we called coy behavior, in which the abused girls were exhibiting both a kind of stay away from me, but also come hither, a mixed message, so to speak, were the most characteristic of later sort of risky behaviors and both behaviors and also more aggression and more re-victimization and more other kinds of problems, so that they were emitting a behavior that was attracting, I think, predatory males in many ways. And that's partly how they ended up in relationships that were often exploitative.
Not because they want sexual attention, but because this is how their abuse has taught them to interact with men. And though Putnam's research has shown the mental and biological damage abuse causes, he says there are good treatment models for those who are able to access them.
A particular group called the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, which is government funded, has about 180 sites around the country, has been very good at pulling together what these treatments are and trying to train and disseminate them. But 180 sites doesn't move the national needle.
Leaving countless kids to fend for themselves. Many develop behavioral issues that teachers and parents tend to focus on instead of recognizing it as a symptom of much deeper wounds. And without the knowledge and understanding of the underlying cause, these kids are often demonized for the coping strategies they've tried to patchwork together.
Most of the kids we see went through the foster care system. Many times they bounce out to the last child I evaluated had 11 different placements in the foster care system. And the major reason was hypersexuality and aggression. And people just didn't feel safe having this really 9-year-old child in their home. And so they would turn around. And of course, you've now had ruptured attachment relationship after attachment relationship after attachment relationship. So these kids don't trust anybody. They don't believe in anything.
Putnam says that all too often, it's the behavioral issues that get all the attention, while the real problems are left to fester.
In fact, the real problem for that is that because you have movement from foster care to foster care to foster care often, the foster parents know very little about what's going on with the child medically. And they get this child, the child's on various medications, nobody knows why, they just keep doing the same thing. So there's been a woeful lack of really medical integration into the treatment of these children.
A broken system that doesn't address the root cause and at times reinforces the psychological wounds. Luckily, help doesn't always have to come from medical professionals. Putnam says moms can play a huge part in their child's recovery. The Female Growth and Development Study revealed that how well a mother was able to cope with finding out about their child's sexual abuse is a big factor in how well their daughter handles it. Kids who were believed and supported generally fared better than those who were doubted or blamed. Putnam's research has shown that supporting mothers through trauma, both their child's and their own, can be more helpful to their kids' development and healing than weekly therapy. But that's still defensive, something that helps only after abuse has happened. Through his work with a program called Every Child Succeeds, Putnam realized that targeting first-time mothers early in parenthood can greatly reduce the risk of abuse. These mothers were willing to make hard choices for the safety of their babies, even ones they weren't willing to make for themselves. Getting help to these women could break the generational cycle of abuse.
What we were very interested in was helping first-time moms who were, in most cases, themselves victims of at least terrible adversity at home. These were teenage moms. They had very little social support. Most of them had had no prenatal experience. And we found that really the best investment was to help the mom, and the mom could help the child. So we did a lot of working with the mom about child development, about really sometimes even simple things like how to hold your child the best way. I mean, often you saw the moms holding their child out like this, and like they were a sack of cement or something like that. It was so we found that working with the moms moves down to the children. And I'm very much a fan of what I call intergenerational interventions that work with sort of particularly mothers and children.
It's this type of information and advocacy that Putnam wishes to see ignite real progress in this field that's too often a blind spot in society.
I feel, and I believe, this is the single biggest sort of source of both mental health problems and also chronic illness in this country. And that's the biology piece of it, the accelerated aging in particular, and aging is the biggest risk factor for things like heart disease and stroke and cancer and the leading causes of death in this country. And that I wanted people to see this global picture, not just simply very frequently that single case study where they'd have an episode in which the person feels very devastated, but you don't really get a sense of how that ripples through their life.
Putnam's book, Old Before Their Time, is available now wherever books are sold. You can find more information about Dr. Frank Putnam and all of our guests on our website, ingoodhealthpodcast.org. For more behind the scenes, follow In Good Health Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our production manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Kristen Farah.
Coming up, why is lead still used in beauty products when In Good Health returns?
Picture this, a curve in the road, a change in plans. Well, what do you say? With the all-new Audi Q3, the answer's always yes. Yes to adventure. Yes to escape. Yes to performance. Yes to comfort. Yes to right now. Because saying yes without hesitation, that's real luxury. The all-new Audi Q3, made for the yes life.
One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. What a deal.
Your new morning groove. Iced coffee from McDonald's, any size for just 99 cents till 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Though we now know lead is a highly dangerous metal, it was an integral part of societies throughout history. The Romans used it in their plumbing systems, Egyptians used it to glaze pots, and the Chinese molded it into coins. For centuries, it could be found everywhere, from the knuckles of gladiators to the stained glass windows decorating churches.
If you put it into glass, it makes glass much easier to work. And so leaded glass was an important product. The second thing that is really important is that it has a low melting temperature, and therefore you could use it to seal things like pipes. When you put pipes together, you could seal the pipes with lead. But in the past, it was used on the roofs of buildings, especially things like churches, to seal the roofs so that they wouldn't leak. And when the Notre Dame Cathedral burned down several years ago, there was a huge amount of lead contamination, especially to the fire workers, which has been documented because of all of the lead being put into the atmosphere.
That's Turi Serling, a distinguished professor of biology, geology, and geophysics at the University of Utah. While lead was used similarly in America, an engineer discovered a novel purpose for the metal in the 1920s: leaded gasoline. This new fuel was designed to stop engine knocking, which can damage the car. Serling's 2026 paper published in PNAS found there was an average of 2.2 grams of lead per gallon of gas.
Which, if you think about 2 grams, isn't much. But if you drive a car or your family drives a car, you burn a lot of gasoline in a year. And actually, by the 1960s, with the expansion of, especially after World War II, of people getting cars, it was equivalent of about 2 pounds per person per year going into the atmosphere. And it was as a gas. I mean, it was just a combined compound. So basically, every time it would rain, it would sweep everything out of the atmosphere, but it would absorb onto people's hair and so on.
It's this hair that Serling and his colleagues used in this most recent paper.
Your hair is recording what you are doing as you're walking through the environment, as you're taking your daily swim. If you do that, it's interacting with the water, it's absorbing things from the atmosphere. And so it's getting a little recorder of your life history.
Tiny particles of lead accumulate in our hair and are difficult to wash off, making it a helpful tool to observe how much exposure we're having throughout life. Serling and his team wanted to see how effective the EPA's lead regulations have been since its inception in 1970. The Environmental Protection Agency was created under President Nixon to address public concerns about air and water contamination across the country. For lead specifically, exposures were driven by leaded gasoline, leaded paint, leaded water pipes, and smelters. While testing hair isn't a direct look at the concentration in a person's blood, Serling says it's an accurate measure of what's happening in the environment. The team analyzed hair samples spanning nearly 100 years to get a clear look at how lead exposure has changed over time.
The concentrations today that we're measuring in the hair are on the order of 100 times lower than pre-EPA. So that's a significant level. What's significant to me about this is that it's actually been a gradual decrease. So Leaded gasoline was we started phasing it out in the 1970s. It was completely phased out in the mid 1990s. But even by the late 1990s, we still were finding much higher concentrations than today. So it's been a gradual decrease.
Serling's research only used samples from people in Utah, so while it's not a look at the entire country, Serling believes those results wouldn't be much different than his research population.
And I say that because the study that we published was only the haircuts that were in Salt Lake City. Now, some of the participants gave us hair that they said, well, this is my baby hair, but I grew up in Texas or in North Dakota or Chicago. And so those are not included in our study, but the few samples we have suggest that it's not really any different.
One factor Serling thinks would cause a slight difference between Salt Lake City and the rest of the nation is the presence of smelters. The area was a major hub for processing lead, silver, and copper, which could mean those nearby residents were in contact with higher concentrations. However, the prevalence of leaded gasoline around the country may have leveled the playing field. And though the results of the EPA's actions have proven to be extremely effective, Serling warns that it's not an area we can forget about.
It took a long time for these things to decrease. When we get these environmental regulations in place, it still is often 20 or more years before we actually begin to see a decrease, and even longer to get to the lower levels that we have today.
It's taken nearly 50 years for us to see the low levels in people exposed to leaded gasoline, even though it's been completely banned for on-road vehicles in the U.S. since 1996.
It's important to emphasize that we don't want to go back. We don't want to go back to the days when the first time I drove across Montana, every river that we passed was closed to fishing because of contamination. We cleaned up those rivers. Those are all now considered pristine trout streams, but we don't want to go back to those high levels.
Though today we can see how effective these regulations have been, those initial proposals were met with some industry pushback using the same argument we see today. The cost of change is too high. Recently, the EPA announced the single largest deregulatory action in U.S. history. They eliminated their 2009 greenhouse gas endangerment finding and all following federal GHG emission standards for vehicles and engine models made after 2012. The announcement cites consumer choice as a main driver of this rollback. The EPA estimates that removing these regulatory requirements will save Americans $1.3 trillion. Critics fear the hidden tax will be paid with our lives.
The automobile industry is saying it'll cost too much to take lead out of the gasoline. The power producing companies, it will cost too much to reduce the acid rain components in power plant emissions. When we wanted to get rid of CFCs, it'll cost too much to solve the ozone problem. Well, it didn't cost too much. And so there is a real value on human life that needs to be considered when you're deciding how much it costs for environmental regulations.
Thankfully, that regulatory rollback does not include the 10-year deadline for replacing lead water pipes across the country. It's estimated that more than 9 million lead service lines are still used to supply water to homes, schools, and businesses. While Serling was able to completely replace the plumbing in his own house, water filters are a more accessible option to filter out any lead in your water. However, lead pipes aren't the only danger in many of our homes.
I remodeled this house that I live in that I said, dates from the mid-1800s. It had many layers of paint. The oldest paint, I'm sure, had lots of lead in it. And it was very useful in paint because it's an insecticide and a fungicide, because it's a poison. So that's one of the reasons that it was actually part of the paint process, is because fungus didn't grow on it. Same with some of the old marine paints. If you don't want barnacles and things to grow on the bottom of your boat, you put a lead paint on the bottom, because the barnacles, it would poison them. But it's poisoning us as well.
Consumer use of lead paint was banned in 1978, but there's still a shocking number of products that use this metal. The FDA reports that nearly 100% of externally applied cosmetics, like lipstick, blush, and shampoos, contain lead. Most of the levels are below 10 ppm, which is the maximum amount allowed, but as it's been established, there is no safe amount of lead. Concerned consumers can use resources like EWG's Skin Deep database, which identifies potential risks in personal care products. You can find more information about Turi Serling and all of our guests on our website, ingoodhealthpodcast.org. For more behind the scenes, follow In Good Health Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farah. Our production manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Greg Johnson.
In Good Health returns in just a moment.
With the all-new Audi Q3, the answer is always yes. Yes to adventure. Yes to escape. Yes to right now. The all-new Audi Q3, made for the yes life.
One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. What a deal.
Your new morning groove. Iced coffee from McDonald's, any size for just 99 cents till 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I'll be honest, shopping for clothes is not my favorite thing. I just want to look good without overthinking it. Stitch Fix makes it easy. You take a quick style quiz, your size, your vibe, your budget, and a real human stylist sends a box with clothes that actually fit your life. Try it on at home, keep what works, send back the rest. Shipping's free, no subscription required. Get $20 off at stitchfix.com/podcast.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Medical notes this week. Is keto the key to a more resilient brain? Research in the Journal of Neurochemistry shows that a high-fat, low-carb diet may preserve cognitive health. It provides an alternative energy source for brains that struggle to process glucose. Scientists also found that mice with the strongest genetic risk factor for Alzheimer's had healthier gut bacteria and more brain energy. These findings suggest that tailoring a person's diet to their specific DNA could be a powerful tool in slowing or stopping the signs of decline. The hidden weight of a brain tumor may be doing more damage than the cancer itself. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences reveals that chronic physical pressure on the brain triggers neurons to begin a programmed self-destruction sequence. The compression activates an inflammatory response, a sign that neuron damage and death is coming. Researchers hope this finding will inform future treatments to help protect healthy neurons and prevent motor impairment and cognitive decline. Can an injection repair a broken heart? Researchers have developed a shot that can speed up healing after a heart attack. It's injected into skeletal muscle to help the body release hormones that protect the heart and support healing. By tapping into the body's own defense systems, researchers hope this shot helps preserve healthy muscle and potentially stop the long-term decline into heart failure. The research is published in the journal Science. And finally, the difference between a true confession and a false one may simply be a good night's rest. A research synthesis published in Psychology, Public Policy, and Law argues that the U.S. legal system dangerously overlooks how sleep deprivation distorts evidence. By failing to account for fatigue, the justice system risks getting unreliable statements from witnesses who, in their exhaustion, become highly susceptible to suggestive tactics and memory errors. And that's Medical Notes this week. I'm Mayan Vasta Betancourt.
With the all-new Audi Q3, the answer's always yes. Yes to adventure. Yes to escape. Yes to right now. The all-new Audi Q3, made for the yes life.
Thank you for joining us this week and every week as we break down the science stories you need to know. You can find all of our past segments and guests on our website at ingoodhealthpodcast.org or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for more behind-the-scenes content. Tune in next week for another edition of In Good Health.
Picture this. A curve in the road. A change in plans. Well, what do you say? With the all-new Audi Q3, the answer's always yes. Yes to adventure. Yes to escape. Yes to performance. Yes to comfort. Yes to right now. Because saying yes without hesitation, that's real luxury. The all-new Audi Q3, made for the yes life.
One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. One iced coffee?
99 cents, please.
For real? No way. What a deal.
Your new morning groove. Iced coffee from McDonald's, any size for just 99 cents till 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I'll be honest, shopping for clothes is not my favorite thing. I just want to look good without overthinking it. Stitch Fix makes it easy. You take a quick style quiz, your size, your vibe, your budget, and a real human stylist sends a box with clothes that actually fit your life. Try it on at home, keep what works, send back the rest. Shipping's free, no subscription required. Get $20 off at stitchfix.com/podcast.